The story of the rich man that appears in this passage of the Gospel of Mark is much deeper and much richer than such a short story would otherwise suggest. In it, we meet a man who's clearly very excited and very passionate about the opportunity to meet Jesus. We later learn that he's a rich man, and so perhaps he's come to realize that despite all of his material wealth, that there's something missing. Perhaps he's come to realize that what's missing is his relationship with God. And so he's so excited to see God made flesh that he runs to Jesus and he falls to his knees and he starts to ask questions of Jesus. And Jesus asks him, well, do you keep the commandments? And the man replies that, yes, of course he does, ever since he was a young boy. His hope and his enthusiasm quickly turn to confusion and sadness because Jesus tells him that it's not enough just to follow the commandments. It's a really good start. Following the Ten Commandments is an excellent start, but it's not enough simply to obey. God calls on us to do more than simply follow the letter of the law. He needs us to follow the Spirit as well. The Ten Commandments, of course, appear in the Old Testament. In the New Testament, we're given the Great Commandments. We are instructed to love God and to treat our neighbors, to treat others as we ourselves want to be treated. Jesus is saying here that we need to trust God entirely. And while the accumulation of wealth and riches isn't sinful per se, it's an indication that this rich man is not entirely relying on God. There's also the question of how those riches, how his wealth was obtained. Was it because when he was called to share what he had, that he didn't share it with those who needed it more? Christ urges us to give up our possessions, to focus not on earthly pleasures and earthly treasures such as wealth or food or other sorts of possessions, but to focus on the promise of the reward to come. He knows that it won't be easy. He even promises us that the troubles and the persecutions will be great. But he tells us that if we trust in God and if we leave that pursuit of the accumulation and the maintenance of our earthly wealth behind, then we will receive our reward in the next life. He calls on us to forego those earthly treasures in favor of love and fellowship and communion with God. As we approach the Canadian Thanksgiving holiday, it's a time for us to reflect on all of the blessings that we've been given. Certainly food and shelter and the possessions that we hold dear, but it's also time to reflect on some of the more intangible things that God has given us through his bounty. Things like love and fellowship and camaraderie and family and liberty, free will, consciousness, and an entire lifetime in which we can serve and glorify him. In Canada and all around the world, there's a great discrepancy between those who have material wealth, don't have material wealth. But everyone has something that they can give. Everyone has some time or a skill or an attitude or maybe even wealth that they can give for the benefit of all and for the glory of God. Jesus calls on us not to focus on the accumulation of wealth and material resources, but to give what we can, to share what we have in terms of time and treasure and talents in order to benefit all and to serve the greater glory of God.